Hi, this is Amy Kelly at Ards Allotments. It's the start of March, which is a really exciting time to have an allotment or any growing space because there are so many seeds that can be sown at this time of year. Most of your seed packets will have a guide on the back suggesting which are the best months to sow them, either inside or outdoors, but this really should only be used as a guide because in different years you may have a colder March or a warmer March, and that might alter your decision for when you should start your planting. The best, most reliable way is to check what temperature the soil is and to sow your seeds accordingly. Different species of plants have different germination temperatures. So that's the temperature at which the seed will start to sprout and turn into a little plant for you. So let's have a look at some of the most common things you'll be sowing at this time of year and what the best temperatures to get the best results from those plants are. So first of all, your brassicas. So this is cabbage, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, anything in that cabbage family is a brassica. Now, these will germinate at lower temperatures for you, but to be really happy, they sort of want to be between 15 and 20 degrees C. Now, they will absolutely germinate for you as long as the soil is sort of 10 degrees or warmer, but you'll get better results the warmer the soil is. Once you start getting 30 degrees or higher, they're not so happy. So their ideal temperature really is 15 to 20 degrees. Now, not all of your cabbages and broccoli and kale is going to suggest that it be sown this month, and a lot of them may suggest that you start them out inside in trays, which is a really good idea. As long as you plant them out into the ground while the plants are still nice and small, you won't have any trouble with bolting or buttoning or any of the issues that you can get if you wait too late to transplant them and they get too bogged down in their little pots. So as long as you transplant them out when they're nice and young, starting these off inside is a really, really good idea. The exception to that rule is turnips. Turnips, any root crop really, beetroot, carrots, anything, is best sown directly into the ground because the first thing they do is send out a nice long taproot. Okay, that taproot is going to form the basis on which the rest of the root forms, the lovely fleshy part that you want to eat. So if that taproot gets broken or disturbed by being transplanted, you're likely to end up with a less good crop that will be more prone to bolting. So it's better to sow these straight into the ground. Ideally wait till your soil temperature is 10 to 12 degrees or higher is better, and other than that, sow according to the packet instructions for spacing and depth of sowing your seeds. So all your root crops straight into the soil, all your leafy crops absolutely fine, and I would argue generally better to start them off inside. A propagator is amazing, a heated greenhouse is fantastic, a nice warm sunny windowsill that doesn't get too cold at night is absolutely perfect. So what else might you be sowing at this time of year? Well, there are a number of carrot varieties that are suitable for early sowing. If they say early or forcing, generally they're a variety that is going to be good to sow earlier on in the year. So I have a couple of varieties here, Amsterdam forcing and Nantes 5. Both of those are fine to sow at this time of year. Ideally, wait for the soil to hit 10 degrees C or warmer. They will germinate at 7 degrees, but your germination tends to be a wee bit more sporadic. So you will get much better results if you wait till the soil is slightly warmer with these. One point to make with these, yes, you can absolutely sow these now, but there is no such thing as a place that has no problems ever with carrot root fly. So last year I had quite a bit of trouble with my carrots being nibbled on just because I was lazy and I didn't get any protective mesh over the top of them. So carrot root flies lay their eggs in the soil. The little grubs go and burrow into your carrots and give you damaged roots. You can still eat them, it doesn't poison them, it doesn't cause any problems with them, other than that they're more likely to rot and you have to cut out all the wee bits that have been nibbled on. So to avoid cabbage root fly, you can simply wait and sow in May or later. That way you will have missed the worst of the laying season for those wee flies, and you're very unlikely to end up with carrot root fly. It can still happen, but you've significantly improved your chances. So I'm going to be lazy and wait until May to sow these. But if you want to sow them now, go ahead. Just remember to put a protective covering like fleece or really fine mesh over the top of it, just to stop any of those nasty flies getting to it. So if, like me, you're not going to be sowing your carrots until May, that means you've got a little bit of space that's just going to be left with nothing growing in it in your allotment for a couple of months. Don't let that space go to waste. Sow a quick growing catch crop. A catch crop is anything that grows and can be harvested really quickly. So classic examples would be cut and come again lettuce or radishes, which are amazingly fast growing, super versatile. You can eat every part of the plant, the leaves as well as the roots, as well as the seed pods, as well as the flowers if you want to let them go to flower. And they're really, really fast growing, and there's lots of different lovely varieties out there. These will put up with slightly colder temperatures. Now they would prefer it to be a wee bit warmer, so they, like so many things, just love it if the soil is 15 to 20 degrees, but they will happily germinate at 5 degrees, and they will happily germinate at 30 degrees and anywhere in between. So these are a fabulous, quick, easy growing catch crop. Don't let your soil go to waste. If you've got a bare spot, stick something quick growing in there. Another quite fast growing crop that you can think about sowing now is spring onions. So these are bulbing spring onions, and these are just the usual straight stemmed ones. Both of them, you eat the whole thing. So they're lovely, they're quick growing, and they are delicious. So these ideally want a soil temperature between sort of 14 and 20 degrees C. So if your soil is still more like 10 degrees, go for the radishes. If you're getting on to 15, 16, 17 degrees, these will grow really lovely and quickly for you. There are so many seeds that you can be sowing at this time of year, and a real family favourite of ours are lettuces. There are so many fabulous varieties. You can grow lettuce in your allotment literally every day of the year. You can have a lettuce growing there, and this is a great time to start out your lettuces for the new year. So like so many crops, lettuces do have a favourite temperature to germinate at, and for them it's about 20 degrees. You can absolutely get them to germinate at colder temperatures, but your germination may take longer and be more sporadic. So you'll have a few seeds germinate, and then maybe a week later another few seeds, and then maybe a week after that another few seeds. If you can get your soil to about 20 degrees, they'll all come up really quickly and all at once for you. These are really happy to be transplanted. So a great way around this is just to start them on a nice warm sunny windowsill or in a propagator or in a greenhouse, just to get them started. And then once they start to get their first couple of true leaves, you can pop them out into your allotment. If we get that colder weather unexpectedly, stick a bit of fleece over the top of them. They'll be absolutely fine. Do remember, slugs are still about at this time of year, and the snails will be waking up shortly if they haven't already. So do consider using either slug pellets or some other form of protection like bear traps to try and keep the slugs away, because they just love delicious little lettuce seedlings. But lettuce are a really great crop that you can start sowing in March and continue sowing all the way through the year. I was uncharacteristically organised last year, and I sowed broad beans in September. Broad beans are really hardy, and they can overwinter. Most of the varieties can overwinter and be perfectly happy with all the frost and the cold, and then be nice, good, sturdy plants at this time of year, and they will give you a much earlier crop. But you can still absolutely sow broad beans right now. There are a number of really nice varieties. Look for the likes of Bunyard Exhibition. It does really well for me up at the allotment. It seems to really like the conditions there. So you can sow your broad beans now. They're going to want a temperature range of between 12 and 15 degrees to germinate at their best. And you can sow peas now as well. Now, peas and beans are kind of funny crops in that so many other ones want it to be really, really lovely and warm and toasty and tropical and South American. Broad beans don't. Broad beans and peas would much rather it was this lovely sort of temperate weather that we're having at the moment, in the range of 12 to 15 for your broad beans, and in the range of 12 to 18 for your peas. So too much colder than that, the germination is going to be sluggish. too much warmer than that, and they might just refuse to germinate because they've just gone, oh, it's much too hot, can't possibly, darling. So there are several crops that it's definitely too early to put out in the ground yet, but that if you want to grow them this year, you should be starting them inside right about now. So the classic example is courgettes. I just love courgettes. They're so delicious, they're so versatile, they're just great big flavor sponges. There's so many ways to cook them. We will do a whole separate episode on how wonderful courgettes are, but they come in all different sizes, colors, varieties. One thing that they all have in common is that they are a warmer weather plant. They will not tolerate any amount of frost, so do not plant them out in your allotment until all risk of frost has passed. But you want to be starting these out. The best thing to do is start them out in one of those little 9-centimeter pots, so they're going to have a little bit of root room to grow because they're going to be in those pots for a little while. So stick a couple of seeds into a little 9-centimeter pot. They're going to want 15 to 20 degrees to germinate. I tend to put 2 seeds in each pot, and then whichever one of those 2 seeds germinates the best and looks the healthiest, I keep that one and I throw away the other one. You can absolutely repot the other one and grow it on and whatever else as well, but no matter how good a gardener you are and how good your seeds are, sometimes you get one that just doesn't germinate. So to make sure I've always got enough, I sow 2 per pot. And again, you're looking for 15 to 20 degrees for your courgettes to germinate. Another don't put out in the garden yet, but do start sowing the seeds crop is tomatoes. Now, again, these are a warm weather crop. Okay, so they're not going to tolerate any amount of frost, and they're really going to want nice warm germination temperatures. We're talking 20 to 25 degrees for your tomatoes to be happy germinating. You can germinate these any way you like, either direct into a small pot. You can germinate them on a bit of kitchen roll. They're really obliging. I like to sow them into little seed trays and then prick them out and put them into pots. I germinate mine on a nice warm sunny windowsill. Anywhere that you're going to get consistent temperatures, and consistent means not on top of the radiator where the temperature is going to go up and down, but a nice warm windowsill that stays fairly warm at night, or a heat mat in a greenhouse, or anywhere that your temperature is going to be fairly consistent above 20 degrees, 20 to 25 degrees is going to give you really lovely germination on your tomatoes, and then you're going to have lovely tomatoes to eat. For all of your seeds, the first stop is to have a look on the back of the packet. It will tell you useful information like your planting depth, how far apart the rows should be, and this one even has the little germination temperature listed there. So this is showing that this can be sown in March. So we're going to go ahead and get those sown indoors, ready to be planted out later. This is courgettes, by the way. So whichever seeds you're sowing, first of all, check the packet and then just have a quick feel of your soil. Never plant seeds in soil that's frozen. Never plant seeds in soil that's really badly waterlogged. Any leafy crop generally is going to be absolutely fine to transplant. Any root crops are best sown in the ground. As a general rule of thumb, you're better to leave it longer rather than jump the gun and try and plant too soon. If you put plants in soil that's cold and wet, they're just going to sit there and sulk, or the germination's not going to be great. If you wait until a little later in the year, just a few more weeks or a month or two, you will find that the soil has warmed up a lot. The growth is so much more vigorous. Often the plants that you sow next month will be just as fast and just as vigorous as the ones that you sow this month. They'll catch up to each other. So be patient, don't jump the gun, do start some things inside now. And if you feel like your soil is warm enough to start sowing some of those hardier, more cold tolerant crops, absolutely go ahead and do it. I don't know about you, but I'm just itching to get my fingers back in the soil and get growing again. So I hope to see you up at the allotment soon, and in the meantime, happy gardening.